me around, turn me around.
The state of Tennessee, they just passed a redistricting map that will eliminate the only black district remaining in the state of Tennessee. Tennessee, what a disgrace. What a disgrace. But America isn't racist. America isn't racist, but yet they go and eliminate the only remaining majority black district in Tennessee. Oh my God, what a mess. Every day it's something. The only black majority district, they just eliminated it. And I don't know why we keep being surprised with all this news. It's a disgrace. It's sickening. It's sickening. My thing is, how do people keep continuing to vote Republican, let alone you Republicans point fingers at Democrat, but at least we want to involve everyone. Republicans, they're just pushing one race. And if you can't see that, something's wrong with you.
The Voting Rights Act gutted. Redistricting is disenfranchising black voters, and elections are being called off.
What is happening in the state of Tennessee is racist redistricting. It's happening in Alabama. It's happening in Mississippi. It's happening all across our country.
Meanwhile, the people standing up are being criminalized and targeted.
White supremacy isn't something that happened in the past. It is happening right now.
For months, lawmakers have warned about the dangers of federalizing elections, but it's like no one's listening.
Are you concerned that our elections will be federalized?
I am concerned that our elections will not be free.
The federal government does not have the legal right to take over elections.
So what happens when control over elections becomes concentrated at the federal level? The danger is not just political. It's the erosion of local power, public trust, and ultimately our democracy.
You all may win this battle. You may win this war, but history will not look back kindly on you.
Supreme Court ruling, voting right explained. I'm asking myself, do you think that this is not racist? Because black and brown people, I think they are stripping them from having their rights to vote. What do you think about this?
We have some massive breaking news in my state. So I live in Tennessee, and just now, my state's Republican supermajority voted to erase the last Democratic black majority congressional district by literally carving Memphis into 3 different seats. All 9 of Tennessee's districts will now lean Republican, not because voters change, but because politicians change the lines. What this means is that black Tennesseans won't have representation. For a history lesson, there used to be something called the 3/5 compromise, meaning for representation, a black person's vote counted for 3/5 of a white person's vote. Well, the way Tennessee just redrew these districts, 1/3 of Memphis's black population will go to each of these new districts, meaning essentially now their vote only counts for 1/3, which is less than the 3/5 compromise. Now, our politicians decided to do this right after the Supreme Court gutted a key part of the Voting Rights Act of 1965 in a Louisiana case, making it much harder to challenge maps that dilute black political power. Lawmakers and legal experts are already warning that this ruling will allow more maps like Tennessee's to stand, even when they silence communities of color. Now, here's how I see it. Redistricting should be the will of the voters, something that we vote on directly, not a tool of politicians, Republican or Democrat, that they use behind closed doors to lock themselves into power. We elect them to represent us, not to slice us up on a map so they never have to listen again. Memphis didn't move, black Tennesseans didn't vanish, the district lines did, and that should be our decision, not theirs. Anyways, drop your thoughts in the comments. Make sure to follow for updates. This just happened, so there might be more information coming out.
Tennessee Republicans are trying to redraw congressional maps right before the midterms. And critics, including myself, say that this is a direct attack on black voting power in Memphis. And then as a reminder, Tennessee already completed redistricting after the census, so this is a mid-decade redraw. So Tennessee lawmakers just advanced a new congressional map that would split Memphis and Shelby County into multiple Republican-leaning districts. So critics say the goal is clear: weaken the voting strength of Black communities and eliminate the state's only Democratic-held congressional seat. So from a legal and civil rights standpoint, this matters because Memphis has historically been Tennessee's largest Black political center. So when you fracture that voting block across several districts, you reduce the ability of Black voters to elect candidates who represent their communities. So Republicans say this is about fair representation and balancing districts. Opponents, like myself, are calling it racial gerrymandering and voter dilution ahead of the 2026 midterms. And timing matters here. Nationally, Republicans are facing growing concerns about losing control of the House and potentially the Senate. So this is happening while Trump is facing historically low approval ratings and increasing public scrutiny over repeated public appearances that critics and even some former allies are saying they raise concerns about cognitive decline and fitness for office. And then against that backdrop, critics are arguing these redistricting efforts are about protecting the political power before the next election cycle. So that all sounds procedural until you look at the real world impact. Congressional maps affect who controls federal funding, healthcare priorities, education policy, and committee power. These maps are not just lines on paper, they determine political influence for entire communities. So the next step is likely lawsuits. Civil rights organizations are already preparing legal challenges, arguing that this map unlawfully dilutes Black voting power. But here's the problem. Elections can still move forward while courts sort this out, which means the political impact can happen long before a final ruling.
So help us understand what this means, what this map means, and the implications it has on Tennessee.
Sure. First of all, the legislative process requires 3 steps for any bill to pass, right? We've seen step 1 happen.
Right.
Now.
This was the House.
This was the House passing it. When the House passes the bill, then the Senate takes up whatever version. They can move on with their own version, or they can adopt what the House just passed. That's going on in the Senate right now. They're going through and debating the bills, which is the map and all the legislative language needed to make this new map come into effect. If that is then passed by the Senate this afternoon, it will go to Governor Lee's desk for signature. There have been a couple little bills already passed, like the money needed to do this, and the governor's signing these things immediately. So if it's passed in the Senate, the governor passes it, these bills take effective immediately. There will be new congressional maps in Tennessee. There will be an election set. The interesting thing that comes out of this is anyone who is now choosing to run or their district has been moved, they will have just 10 days to qualify for that map. That's a very expedited process.
You're saying the people who are running for office have 10 days to qualify?
If their district has been moved, if the borders to their district, and they are now previously in District 5 and they're now in 9, they will have 10 days to qualify to get on that ballot. If they met the March 10th deadline for the original ballots, and they're still in that same district, they're okay. The parties then, after that 10-day period, will have an additional 2 days to determine that they are a bona fide candidate to put that on. So what's all this mean? Yes, from the legal perspective, it's a mess. There are going, and I say that because there are going to be legal challenges
right,
to this that come likely in federal court. They could be filed in state court too, but it's most likely to be in federal court, as we saw in Louisiana, that made its way to the Supreme Court, that upended all of this. That's going to happen here in Tennessee. How quickly will that play out? At the district trial court level, then the appellate level, then the Supreme Court? That's to be seen. But that is another wrinkle to this that has yet to play out.
You know, I feel like we've heard a lot of people say over the last couple of days, how can the Republican Party move so quickly with this? How is that even allowed when you have already candidates for these House seats who are already, they're already hitting the streets. They're already trying to get voters for them. So how does a political party in this state or any state so close to an election pull something like this off? How's it even possible?
Well, that's one of the reasons why you see so much protest for people. Typically, when you have a redistricting map like this, there's a period of time for public comment where you and I and whoever is concerned and interested get a choice to come out and voice your concerns. Part of the bills that have been passed here got rid of that. Yeah. And that's why a lot of people are upset. There's also a lot of study that looks into it to see where population centers have moved, demographics of the people that move there. Is this the right proportion? That was all done away with. And so that is part of this. But your other question, which is more importantly, how does this happen so quickly? You have a supermajority in both chambers that allow you to do this, to change, in certain cases, a law that was decades old here in Tennessee that said you cannot redistrict within the middle of a decade. All of that has been thrown out.
Wow.
Completely new maps here.
Tennessee lawmakers are trying to eliminate the only black majority district in the entire state. After the Voting Rights Act was gutted recently, lawmakers across the country, especially Republican ones, gone out of their way to start the redistricting process before the midterms so they can gerrymander. Specifically, what it does is that it takes Rep. Steve Calhoun's district that's majority black and splits it up into 2 Republican places where essentially that black district will lose the representation of power. Be sure to share this with other people, especially if you live in Tennessee.
The reason all of these red states are rushing to redistrict, it's because of this. Y'all remember this? Y'all remember us, the 92%. That's why they're rushing to the front, rushing to be the first ones to completely redistrict. Like in Tennessee, getting rid of the only black congressional district. Y'all have seen me pull this out a million times. This is the 5th or 6th copy I have of this. It's because these numbers aren't to be trifled with. They're not to be played with. All the rest of y'all, these other demographic groups, they see that y'all could be manipulated. You can all be controlled through fear, through dangling that carrot of proximity to whiteness, right? And the American dream. Not us. They see how dedicated we are. They know they're about to be cooked in the midterms, and what they're trying to do is kneecap the Democratic Party. It's very simple. Really got a problem. The 92% they have a problem with us. They can't have black women in leadership because we have more integrity. We see value in and feel good about being accountable to our community and to the people that we represent. Voting the way we do, we take a great deal of pride in it. We can't be controlled. We can't be remote control, and the GOP can't stand that. So they can't have us in leadership. That's why they're harassing and weaponizing the FBI to trump up charges on State Senator Louise Lucas. Want to keep us afraid, want to try to intimidate us because they know they're going to be cooked in the midterms. That's why this is happening. Just in case anyone was wondering, and this has been your moment of truth and clarity from Black women of the 92%.
Republicans are racists, period. And I'm done pretending they're not. While they actively dismantle black political power in broad daylight. At some point, we need to stop arguing about whether something feels racist and start looking at what's actually being done. If you are carving out black communities, diluting black voting power, eliminating black representation, and redrawing maps specifically to weaken the political influence of black voters, what exactly do you want people to call that? In Tennessee, Republicans pushed a redistricting strategy that dismantled the state's only black majority congressional district, centered around Memphis and Shelby County. The district was split apart and absorbed into multiple Republican-leaning districts. Civil rights groups and voting rights advocates are calling it racial gerrymandering and voter dilution, while Republicans keep denying they're racist. Please. Nobody's buying that act anymore. Racism in 2026 doesn't always look like someone screaming slurs. Sometimes racism looks like politicians and the people who vote for them strategically weakening black representation while smiling into the cameras and talking about election integrity and fair maps. It's the same racism with updated branding. Republicans are obsessed with screaming identity politics while simultaneously redrawing districts based on race and political power. That's what makes the hypocrisy so disgusting. They know black voters hold political influence when communities stay unified. So they split the communities apart. They fracture voting blocks. They dilute representation. They weaken black political leverage. You can't repeatedly target black political power and act offended when people call it racist. And the gaslighting is the most insulting part. Black Americans are supposed to sit there, watching representation disappear in real time, while Republicans tell everybody to stop making everything about race. Meanwhile, they are literally engineering maps around race. The call is coming from inside the House, bitch. And if Republicans were truly confident about their policies and message, they wouldn't need to manipulate the district maps every time black voters become politically effective. This was never about fairness. This was always about control. And history already taught us what happens when people in power start deciding certain communities deserve less political representation. We've been here before, and we know how to fight back. And that's the read. If you like your tea hot, share it, save your seat, and follow for more. This is the Notorious JTB, notoriously opinionated, signing out.
They're scared of Justin Pearson. That's what Tennessee is scared of. They're scared of black people. Just ask yourself, why are they so scared of black people in America? Why are they so scared? Because black people are powerful? Because black people have beauty and intelligence and physical prowess that they'll never have? Is that why? They're scared. They're scared. They are scared of Jasmine Crockett. And they wrote her out as well. They wrote Jasmine Crockett out of her district. Now they're trying to do the same thing to West Tennessee. And they're trying to split West Tennessee up into 3 different levels, where the top level, these are rural areas, okay? They have their representation. Let the rural areas have the representation that they need, and let the city of Memphis, which is 70% black, if not more at this point, have their representation. What is wrong with you guys? You're fucking nuts. Not only are you nuts, but you're just racist. You're fucking racist.
The repugnant redistricting in Tennessee, which has been obviously inspired by the recent Supreme Court decision concerning the Voting Rights Act, is nothing less than an absolutely disgusting congerie of racism, totalitarianism, and anti-democratic bullshit. It is the very antithesis of democracy to deny black people the right to vote, to not offer appropriate redress for the residual effects of systemic racism that have been on the books from Jim Crow onward, to simply erase decades of progress to ensure that black people not only have the right to vote, but that their districts also have the right to be fairly and condignly represented. Well, it just absolutely fucking angers me, as it should you. We are facing a 5-alarm fire here in the United States of America that calls for loud, significant, and aggressive pushback. Not strongly worded letters by fuckheads like Chuck Schumer. Not endless waffling by Democrats in name only, like John, I can't take enough 8-pack checks, Fetterman. Our nation needs fighters. It needs people to really fucking make Republicans feel the fear of every known deity created by humankind. We cannot accept centrist bullshit, errand partis breaking news bromides. We are all now dancing along a precipice, and it requires progressives, leftists, people to be fucking loud. Primary these fucking do-nothing Democrat dunces. Make the lives of every Republican asshat absolutely fucking miserable, because they have no empathy. They do not give a fuck about this country. They only care about lining their own fucking coffers with bullshit. We need the Voting Rights Act restored. We need income inequality and affordability to be a top option. We need the removal of all tariffs. We need the abolition of ICE permanently. We need every fucking Democratic Party member to take an oath to never, ever take money from Israel and to concentrate on the shitstorm and the conflagration happening here at home. These need to be our top immediate priorities. And if the Democrats cannot do this, they need to be replaced by a political party that properly represents the will of the American people. Because I can guarantee you, it is not this bullshit. It isn't.
Tennessee Republicans really did just redraw the maps for the state. And if you're wondering what the old map looked like, all of Memphis was comprised of the Tennessee Congressional District 9. Now, look at this one. Memphis is broken up into 3 different congressional districts. So where my mother still lives in the state, she would now be in District 8, Congressional District 8, based on this new map.
Here at the House meeting, where they are basically redistricting Memphis's lines for voting and making the black vote basically meaningless. And I'm very disgusted, but not surprised to see so many black youth. There are many who are obviously speaking on what's going on, but there are also many who are living in the fruits of their ancestors that given us so much of these privileges. And yet, you talking about this, you talking about let's go to a party, you talking about ain't shit funny no more. Like, this is such a full out war on all American rights, honestly. And I just feel like it's disgusting to see people who are being able to go to college, who are being able to, and mind you, in a college that's integrated, to be able to go to a school that has all these fruits of labors that people took years and years to get here. And instead of speaking on seeing that your rights are now being, now that the rights that were enshrined by the Constitution are now being fought against by the Supreme Court, by state laws, by all this, by federal, whatever, and you're not speaking out about it, like, that's so utterly disgusting. And maybe, you know what, maybe you're thinking it won't impact you, but it fucking will. And knowing that, again, Memphis is a black city, and they're doing this to y'all, and y'all don't have the audacity to come speak up on what's going on, like, it just makes me want to throw up, like, so disgusting. I'm not gonna lie.
So Tennessee Republicans just passed a new map that will eliminate the one black congressional seat in the state. And if you're not extremely upset about it, you really should be. It is a vicious attack on black voters in the state, and it is the beginning of an attack on black voters all over the South because of our racist Supreme Court. This is what the protest looked like before the vote. And this is what Representative Justin Pearson had to say during the protest. I want you to listen to him. It's important.
We have a white supermajority Republican legislature that's doing everything it can to destroy us. This is only going to happen once, and we're alive for it, and we all have to do something.
He said, this is only going to happen once, and we are alive for it. We have to do something. We are alive in a pivotal moment in our country, and it is time for all of us to stand together and say that this is unacceptable. And white people, I say this with all love, if you are silent right now, you are helping these guys who may as well have hoods on their heads. He said it. This is only going to happen once, and we're alive for it. So the question is, what are we going to do? What will we tell our children we did when civil rights were under attack by a bunch of old, sad, white men? Support black-led voting rights organizations, register to vote, call Congress, sign up to be a poll worker. This is going to matter so much in November. It's come to a point where we're either standing with these people or we're standing with Jim Crow. History is watching. Make the right choice.
They are putting black voters from Memphis in the same district as Pulaski, Tennessee, the literal birthplace of the Ku Klux Klan. You cannot tell me that this shit is not a calculated, symbolic slap in the face of all those who have marched, bled, and died for us to be able to have the right to vote. It is an attempt to drown out the voice of the 901 and the history of the very people who tried to silence Memphis in the first place. Memphis is currently in a political fight of its life. What we are seeing in Nashville is some of the most racially charged piece of legislation in modern history, and it's some bullshit. It is absolutely some bullshit. So on this Wednesday morning, the Tennessee legislator presented the new congressional map. If they have their way, they will vote them into law by tomorrow. Make no mistake about it, this is a full red takeover. They are moving at the speed of light right now for one specific reason, is because they don't want us to have time to see what they're actually trying to do to the 901 area. As many of you may know, all of this started last week when the Supreme Court officially gutted the last standing pillar of the Voting Rights Act, the Louisiana versus Callis ruling. They basically said that protecting black representation, black votes, is now optional, and that you have to prove racism. And the second that door opened, the vultures started coming out. So it enters people like trash ass Senator Marsha Blackburn, Within hours of the court ruling, she was on the phone pressuring Governor Lee and doing the president's bidding to call this special session. And yesterday, they killed officially the 72-hour. That means that they refuse to give the public, or even other lawmakers, at least 3 damn days to look at the maps before voting. They do not want you to know what is happening, which is why passing it so fast allows for there to be a diminishing of public transparency. And now that these maps are out, we see why. The only majority black congressional district in Tennessee, and they are hell bent on taking away the powerhouse of black political representation and slicing it into pieces. This is literally a copy and paste of the Nashville playbook from 2022. If many of you may recall, back then they cracked Nashville, Davidson County into 3 different pieces, effectively silencing the city's voice and turning a Democratic seat into 3 Republican ones. Now they are bringing the same old tired bullshit to Memphis. This is clearly racially motivated. They are abruptly dismantling, so your vote becomes diluted, or utterly becomes diluted, where it is swallowed up in deep red counties. And if you want to know how really disrespectful this is, make sure that you are looking at the geography, because they are grouping Southeast Memphis, Shelby County neighborhoods like Hickory Hill and Collierville into a district that stretches hundreds of miles into Giles County. This is the 9-0 sweep. They want to move that 8-1 sweep that they've been having to a 9-0 Republican takeover of our state's federal voice. They aren't trying to win an election because they know how the poll numbers already look in November. They are trying to effectively delete the opposition. Our people are upset and angry. One user has said, "Oh, look, the Tennessee GOP supermajority is disenfranchising Memphis and Shelby County." Another user has said, "I really hate this. There's no reason to rezone. We have no business being lumped with anyone else, let alone being split 3 ways." And finally, this user said, "You cannot convince me Memphis and these rural suburban Tennessee counties have the same political priorities, economic realities, or cultural identity. Memphis is being carved up and diluted on purpose. Let's not pretend this is anything less than racially motivated." I absolutely 1,000% agree. Y'all, listen, we are seeing mass protests right now at the Capitol. We want to encourage everyone to keep the energy going. They are relying on your apathy. They are counting on you to be too tired or too confused. They are not going to add unnecessary prolonging of this thing because they want to depend and count on your confusion, or count on your apathy, or count on you being not informed. Continue to show up. Make sure you're calling the governor. Make sure you're calling your state representatives who are sitting in Nashville right now. We need to continue to make this vote as loud and comfortable as possible for them. Stay loud, stay ready, keep your eyes on Nashville. This is not a race. This is absolutely a marathon. This is domestic policies.
Tennessee Republicans just successfully eliminated the only majority black district in the state. Here's the moment it happened. Total chaos ensued.
Leader Lambert. Mr. Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield the remainder of my
Leader
time.
Lambert yields the rest of his time. We're voting. We are voting on the bill. All those in favor of House Bill 7003 as amended, vote aye when the bell rings. Those opposed, vote no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Mr. Clerk, please take the vote. Yeah.
Aye, 64, 25 nays, 3 present, not voting.
House Bill 7003, having received the constitutional majority, I hereby declare it passed without objection. The motion can reconsider is tabled. Leader Lambert, you're recognized.
This is the direct result of the Supreme Court ruling that basically gave all of these Republican states the green light to get rid of these majority black districts and make their districts however they want while excluding black voters and diluting their voices. Unfortunately, this will be the new norm, y'all. Like, the red states are racing to do this. Louisiana is trying to do it. Florida just did it. It is going to continue around the South. Our only hope is that Democrats continue to match the energy and do it in blue states as well.
We need to talk about what's happening in Tennessee. After the Supreme Court's latest ruling, which gutted a key provision of the Voting Rights Act, we're seeing all of these red states racing to wipe out their majority Black, majority Democrat districts. And in Tennessee, my friend is a state rep, Justin Pearson. He's running for Congress in the 9th District, the only majority Black, majority Democrat district in the entire state. And he's watching his colleagues in the state legislature wipe it out. He's not going down without a fight, and neither are the people of Memphis. So I hope you'll stand with me and join them at defenddistrict9.com.
Thank you for watching Great Minds Blacks.